Welcome to the Mount Pilgrim Missionary Baptist Church Network, where we are building faith and transforming lives, where our senior pastor is the Reverend James I. Perkins.
Well, good day, and welcome to Mount Pilgrim Missionary Baptist Church, Straight Talk. And I guarantee you, this is Straight Talk. We just talk about some of the issues that are confronting our community, our churches, and our schools. So we ask you just to be comfortable and just pray for us as we go through this. I am so honored to have these distinguished guests that I have with me today. I have Mr. Phillip Little. Mr. Little is the principal of South Caldwell High School. And I also have Ms. Carol Stugris, who is the Community Outreach Director, Coordinator of our Caldwell County Public School System. So we're going to get right into straight talk. And Ms. Sturgis, I'm going to break tradition just a little bit because traditionally the ladies go first. But since I know that you have a lot to say, and Mr. Little, I'm not saying you don't, but I'm going to go with Mr. Little. And Ms. Sturgis, will you please forgive me this time?
Absolutely.
Mr. Little, I know that you are principal of South Caldwell, and I don't know the number there, but I know it's a great number of students, personnel, and everything. But my main concern was, as we often talk about, is the pink elephant that has invaded our society, our community, COVID. And I often ask teachers particularly, I know you got a great responsibility. How did you just happen to maneuver through COVID and making a major transition from just traditional teaching to all the things that you had to do? If you will, just share with us those.
Well, sure. So back in March, you remember a year ago, it caught us all by surprise.
Yes.
We all went home on a Friday, pretty much I think across the state. Really thought we would be back on Monday or within a couple of weeks. Suddenly, we didn't come back at all.
Yeah.
So when August was approaching, we at least had some reaction time. We had learned some lessons in the spring. We had the summer to plan for it. And so when we started in August, we were able to do so with safety as our priority.
Yeah.
But also having to really redefine the way that we were going to deliver instruction,
Yeah.
the way that we were going to reach out and to support our families.
Mm-hmm.
And so features of that included, of course, safety protocols at the school level, but also included distributing devices and connectivity to families across the county, delivering meals. I believe Caldwell County Schools delivered some 2 million meals by this point to families around the county. And ultimately, of course, about keeping students and staff safe.
Mm-hmm.
So smaller groups, one-way halls, temperature checks, protocols for if someone had symptoms. And of course, families did a great job of keeping students home if they were having symptoms. And so really, our school population, adults and children, were safe the entire year. And of course, the learning that went on, that was really a bonus. But the first priority, of course, was keeping everyone safe.
Yeah. And you know, it's even better, Mr. Little, when you have a staff that work with you, a staff that understands, a staff that are obedient and understand the severity of this virus or this pandemic that we were going through. And even with that, with a school board or even a superintendent that lends his support to the school and help you along, sometimes that makes those that are in charge or right there on contact in charge a lot better, a lot easier when you got, you know, your superiors that understand and support you in your ideas and thoughts.
Absolutely. I cannot fully express, I guess, my thanks for the support that we got from the county level.
Yeah.
There are folks across the state that are jealous of the way that I would say that our school board, that our superintendent supported us, because we had to make sure that we're putting the best person possible in front of kids at any time in a classroom. And yet we're having to do so at a time when suddenly somebody could be sent home sick for 14 days.
Absolutely.
And so the way that they worked with us in terms of leave, in terms of training, in terms of making people whole for when you had to miss part of a day, to take care of families, the way that they supported people's salaries and kept people employed at a time when honestly, the money wasn't coming in. The money was only going out. It was tremendous, and ultimately, when this whole thing is over, folks judge us by how we treated them.
Absolutely.
And our county did a great job of supporting and the way that they treated our staff.
Good. And also, I'm sure you needed the support of family, parents, understanding that maybe this child may have been infected, or this child may have contracted the disease, and they're understanding, well, this is my child, but I'm sure they had confidence in South Caldwell and the leadership of Mr. Little to do the best that he could to protect the rest of the population of the children. Sure. So, and that's good. So I know you probably heard this, if you haven't, we appreciate principals and teachers and all that you guys do right in the forefront, right in the middle of this. So, I hope that you hear this often, your efforts and what you do for our children. And I know that was a priority. Wasn't about Mr. Little, wasn't about it. Our priority are our children. And I'm sure that was at the forefront of your decision making.
Absolutely. And also the support of our faith-based community.
Thank you.
I can't tell you the number of prayer lists that I've been on, the number of prayer lists I've asked to be on. Yeah. And since you and I have just recently met, let me ask to be on yours. And I mean that on a personal level, but I also mean that on the school level, because our families and community have just gone through so much. And
yes,
that flexibility allowed families to take care of what the priorities were, because we had folks that lost jobs, we had folks that lost people. Yeah. And in the midst of all that, we're trying to hold each other together as a family, and maybe meet some curricular goals along the way.
Right.
But, as I mentioned, that safety was the priority. It wasn't long before we figured out, really by about September, that there was more to it than just the safety piece. There really was the social and emotional piece of just helping people deal with that level of change. Yeah. And the smart money would have been we weren't going to make it past October. Yeah. But here we are, we completed a year. It was not a wasted year.
Good.
We did a lot of good things. We're able to celebrate a lot of things and send our seniors off, I think, confidently into the wide world.
Good. I know that summer now is maybe a planning session. I don't know. I know you may have summer school, and I know that you're looking forward to next year already. So what are could you tell us what are your summer plans, and how do you plan to enter into next year? Hopefully that we'll have all of this behind us, and your planning, I don't know if it'll be easier, but it won't be trying to deal with a pandemic.
Sure. Well, if I had my crystal ball working, I would be able to tell you exactly what next year's going to look like.
Yeah,
but from a safety standpoint, I just don't know.
Yeah.
The news, we read about different things that could impact that. So I'm not really sure from a safety standpoint how the school will open. I can tell you that right now we've got lots going on. We've got sports workouts that are happening, camps that are at the school. We have summer learning. We have credit recovery, students that are trying to recoup skills that maybe they missed along the way, just because last year's schedule for many of them was, very disruptive. It just didn't have the same continuum and the same feel. Others that need credit to stay on cohort. So that stuff's going on right now. Hiring, of course, like the painting and stuff you see outside the school, that's of course going on at the school. But the big thing for us is taking the lessons that we learned last year and turning that into a vision and a codified approach for the school for next year. Yeah. And so for us, what we've identified, our priorities are the good communication. It is helping students gain the organizational skills that they're going to need to be successful. I'll tell you what, for instance, right now, with students that were successful, if they did it, you need to hire them. Because these young people, they've done what we wanted them to do as a goal. Yeah. They're independent learners. They can set their own goals. They can set their own strategies, and they can meet those goals. Now, for families, for students, if the student was not successful, the silver lining here is we've still got time. they're surrounded by people that love and care about them, and we know what the challenge is.
Right.
So for us next year, we're going to be trying to give students those skills that will help them be independent. And normally, I mean, that's still a goal, but normally in a school year, there's so many strategies and things that happen in class when you're face to face that maybe the fact that a student is not independent doesn't jump out at you.
Right.
But last year, it was a big red flag because so many of the times they were having to negotiate school on their own and at home. So for us, that's the thing. Take the lessons that we learned and help them to be better next year.
Very good, very good. Thank you so very much. And I wish that I had more questions and could go on and on and on, but I could see Ms. Sturgis is getting itchy here. So I bet to Mr. Little is just to move from the school setting to the education, or to the, what is it? I guess that is the educational department. And Ms. Sturgis, you made a major transition from a school setting, maybe from a classroom or from the principal part of Valmead Elementary School, to being an executive of our school system. Just briefly, tell me, how did that transition go, or what was your learning curve, or was it difficult, or how did you just make it?
Well, there was a new paradigm shift, and as far as learning all about what being a homeless liaison was all about. And my position at the Education Center is that I am the Student Outreach Coordinator. So I'm not only looking at myself as a principal of one school, but I have to look at a district level, district-wide. And for the McKinney-Vento piece, I work with the social workers closely, the school counselors, and we make sure that our students who are homeless within the district are taken care of. And that is learning all about what goes into being a homeless liaison was that big shift for me.
Very good. You know, you and I talked briefly in our conversation as I invited you here, and we talked about homeless children or homeless students. And it was just difficult for me just to imagine that there are homeless families. And when you said homeless, I was thinking living under a bridge or living in a cardboard. I had forgotten about the women's shelter or the family shelter, but nevertheless, it's still homeless. And if you will, just talk to us briefly about what you do and how you manage these homeless families and students.
Okay, so first of all, we are supposed to we have to fill out the paperwork, the information regardless. It's almost like a child find. And I brought with me some information, which along with the special education department, we have the child find. And you can also use this portion to find students who are with homelessness. They are experiencing homelessness. And a little bit about homelessness is just that these are the families that lack a fixed or adequate housing, a permanent residency overnight. And for example, you said bridges, you said living out of cars. Some students and their families are found to be living in cars, not having adequate housing. And this can occur due to some hardships. They could be living out of motels, they could be living in shelter homes. Some students become homeless as a result of domestic abuse, domestic violence, where they live with their parent who has gone to a shelter home. Some students are bunking up with other family members because of a hardship. And to say that this past year, as Mr. Little just alluded to, has been very challenging. We know that several people have lost positions or were unable to pay for housing, and as a result were living in hotels or motels. Some of the shelter homes were not available due to the COVID. However, the Kwanzaa Inn and the women's shelter home was open, but not the whole family could go. So just the females went to the shelter home and of the young children, but when the students reached a certain age, if they were male, then they were not in those settings either. So our children are identified through our social workers, or it could be any employee. We make sure that we do training at the beginning of the school year with our school counselors and our social workers and our administration staff, principals, with all of the administrators to be able to look for homelessness. One of the things that I encourage principals to do if they were setting in on some of the activities or virtual classroom settings, to notice the surroundings where the students were, to see if they were living in motels or substandard home setting, places where students would not be, it's not appropriate to live. And so those were some of the things that I wanted them to look at, to look for. I did a workshop with the Blue Ridge Community Action folks, and have another one planned with just the folks here in Lenoir. But I worked with the Burke County staff and also Caldwell County, just telling them about homelessness, because our preschool children are affected as well.
You know, I know that, well, I don't know, I'm gonna say, it's got to be a mental or an educational barrier for that child's mind. You know, you can't just think well or even being embarrassed by your surroundings and your setting at no fault of yours. And sometimes children can be harsh and mean to other children. But how do you deal with that? Maybe not you, maybe the teachers, to keep a child or another child from just teasing or saying mean things to this child? How do you keep that? It's not maybe a secret, but keep that from other children where it would not affect this child that much.
Well, I think with all classroom settings, we want to create a culture within that classroom that is very nurturing and positive. We want it to be a safe learning environment for all students, and are teaching the character education traits of just showing kindness and respecting others, no matter where we come from. We're all individuals, and we want everyone to see us for our humanity and for who we are. So just providing a classroom environment that is fixated on love and just respecting each other helps us to sort of mitigate some of those barriers that some of our students may have. If there's clothing, we have resources available for these students that they can come in and utilize. We have the specialties that, as far as the underwear, the necessities, toothbrushes, just the normal daily things that we would take for granted. Some of these people do not have, the homeless students, and just making it a safe place and an environment for them that they can come in and be a part of the classroom without ridicule.
You know, here in Caldwell, we have a lot of agencies. I was talking with the lady at the pregnancy center, and I didn't realize what they did. And she carried me on a tour. They have infant clothing from infant, 4, 5, 6-year-old, that mothers unexpectedly or expectantly expecting a child, and they nourish them from the time that they realize they are pregnant or with child until after the child is born. You know, it's all there. And then we have Yokefellow that provides for families. I can't think of the organization, provided so many thousands of dollars for our citizens that were behind in their rent or could not pay their mortgages or water bill, to the city of Lenoir. the city of Lenore partnered with Yokefellow. And now a family can go to Yokefellow. Of course, there are some requirements, but for the most part, you can get help. So we are just blessed to have these kind of organizations that help. And I know that in your situation, Ms. Sturgis, that these are people who are essential. These people are very much appreciated, because where would a mother go? Or where would these children go without some of these? So how often do you, or I'm sure you are, sort of communicate with Yokefellow or the pregnancy center or whatever organization that provide help for the families?
We just did a drive-through little, it was like with the local ICC, and we had agencies that were there, and we gave out little bags and brochures of our different programs and the resources that were available. I work closely with the preschool program, the director, and along with the school counselors and social workers, also with the Department of Social Services, the foster care, just to make sure that we are there to help them. The transportation department, to mitigate any of those barriers. And so while I was there, I did a little walkthrough. I have sent out brochures to pediatricians, and taken them and put them in laundry mats. And I'm going to leave a couple of these posters with you to put up in your church, at the shelter homes, so that we can just get the word out there, because in order to mitigate any barriers that we have for our students for education, we want to make sure that they have transportation, school supplies. I know every school has a closet or a room where there's school supplies that are available, that we work with our schools to make sure that our students are enrolled. Regardless of whether they have that documentation, we can get that. We just want to make sure that they're being in our schools and are educated. Transportation, work closely with the transportation department to make sure that we have bus routes available for these students. If not, we will work with a family member that would have a vehicle, so that we could subsidize some of that for gas to transport students to and from school. It could be a friend or a family member.
Well, you know, just thinking about some of the agencies here, what really got me was teacher's treasure. I did not know about that, and I invited the lady. She came, you know, talking about passion. I said, gosh, this is amazing to what we have here. Had John Francis from Helping Hands. John is now at the point where they are begging people. Everything that we need is there. The doctors are there, the meds are there, whatever you need, and trying to get people to come in and take advantage of all of these resources that we have in the county. So, as I said before, we are just blessed here to have those resources, and we're blessed to have a school system that cares about our students. I'm talking about the entire system, the school, the ed department, and all of those people have a passion for our children. The same thing with faith-based. You know, we got to do our part too. We can't teach. Don't have the license or all the credentials to do that. From a biblical standpoint, we can lead and guide and direct our children and parents as to what to do. So we just have a lot. I know our time has exceeded. Douglas is just shaking his head, but I just want to say, guys, thank you so very much. And I hate to have to cut your time short, or I wish that we could have an hour-long session for each one of you. Maybe I may do that at a later date, to principals and to social workers and to the ed department. There's just so much that our community needs to know, and so much that people are doing, and these programs like this that we probably didn't know about, but now we will, and hopefully people can take advantage of it.
Absolutely. And we appreciate you. And I wanted to put a shout out to the social workers and our support staff, because we appreciate the work that they do as far as finding our students and making sure that they are getting their education.
Yeah, very good. Now, Mr. Little, I'm still going to give you the last word. Ms. Sturgis just had her last word.
I sure did.
So is there any lasting words that you would like to say to us at this time?
Sure, we're just really proud to have had so much community support, just as you said. It takes everybody, same at church as it does at school.
Yeah.
And the best students, the most successful students are the students that, they work in the off season, they work when they're home. And this is a prime time for families to be getting their students ready, to be back in the fall. And that's to have schedules, to have goals, to support and lift up your kids and make sure that they walk back into school in August with their heads held high and confident and ready to achieve their dreams.
Well, thank you. Guys, as always, I can't thank you enough for what you do and to even just take time out of your busy schedule to come here and to be with us on Straight Talk.
Thank you.
Thank you. This unfortunately ends our session for Straight Talk, but I ask you that you will join us on Thursday at 7 o'clock on Mount Pilgrim Facebook. We have Straight Talk every Thursday at 7 o'clock at, what is it, Douglas?
Mount Pilgrim, Lenore, NC.
Mount Pilgrim, Lenore, NC. Every
Both
Thursday.
Facebook and YouTube.
Facebook and YouTube. So please, ma'am, and to all of you that are out there, we thank you for tuning in, and I thank you for the support that you give to us. I thank you for the emails, and I thank you for the text messages. And it's not unusual for me to get 10 or 12 text messages waiting on my phone after we do one of these. So I am so thankful and grateful to our community for supporting this, and I'm thankful for my technician who puts up with me and has to do this on Tuesday so he can audit what I messed up on before we present it on Thursdays. So we're just so thankful for that. And guys, I pray that God will continue to bless you and to be with you and give you the courage and the strength to go on. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into another exciting segment of Straight Talk, where we get straight to the questions and answers that you would like to ask some of the leading people in Caldwell County. We look forward to bringing you podcasts that make an impact in our communities. So tune in every Thursday at 7 o'clock, where we will bring you Straight Talk. We want to keep you informed on activities that are going on within our communities. Be blessed. We will see you next week.